So first we will start with some basic here. Uh, like what is a Azure Logic App and what is the use cases of this one. Okay, so we can say overviews here. Uh, so basically, uh, Logic App is a application developed by the Azure and hosted on Azure platforms as well. And then main objective of this Azure Logic App is that we need to run the automated workflows in across and outside the software ecosystems if we are developing any enterprise or organization applications. So basically, what will be the advantage of using this Azure Logic App? So it first reduce or remove the need to write the code when workflows um, developed and connected with our the resources from the different component, right? So
Mhm.
suppose if have a multiple component in our application, we have a suppose a data, we have a service, we have a system, we have a app. So when we connect all of this component through the our automated workflows, then it will reduce the uh, code rewrite process. Okay, so this is the
Okay.
main advantage of using this Azure Logic Apps. Okay, so basically, we will see how we can write or include the low code, no code tools for our workflow and implementation, right?
Mhm.
So, and then we finally will use definitely this Azure Logic App in our different cloud environment, like hybrid cloud environment or private cloud environment or a public cloud environment, right?
Yes.
For example, suppose if we will use the Visual Designer, in that cases we will build the workflow very easily with the help of Visual Designers, as you know that we have used in the first class.
Mhm.
Okay. So, main building blocks of our workflows is the resource or the component of our applications. We have already um, told you about the component. We have a data, send the data, manage the data. We can all manage through the our automated workflow process here. Okay. For examples, if we are talking about simple task and business process, and then workload, we can automate with the workloads. These are like we can schedule and send the email notification uh, for tracking the any event. Suppose if
Mhm.
we have uploaded the any files or we have uh, developed any Excel sheet. Once the file is uploaded, in that cases, we will develop an automated process to schedule and send the email notifications to the users.
Mhm.
Similarly, we can move the uploaded files from the FTP servers to the Azure Blob storage. In that cases, we can also schedule the notification process. You know about the Azure Blob storage?
Yes.
Yes. So on Azure, we have a different kind of storage. So for the file system storage, mostly we will use the Azure Blob storage. So suppose if there is a task uh, where we need to upload the files from FTP server to the Azure Blob storage, in that cases, we can also automate the process to send the notification, or we can write the same Visual Designer and connector to move or upload this file. And then most and modern example here. Um, we are living in a social media environment currently, so if we need to analyze the sentiment for any product launch, in that cases we can also create an alert and task for items that we need to get the reviews from the users. Okay.
Mm. Okay.
So these are main examples, so that we will understand easily what is the uses of this Azure Logic Apps. Okay.
Yep.
Um, and workflow have a multiple components. We can use the conditions, we can use the switches to determine the next actions. So what kind of actions we can take using this workflow. Okay. So when we're talking about the architecture, let me share my screen. In the designers, we have designed some stateful workflow designers here. uh, Let me zoom out in this program. Yeah. So on the top, we have seen that we have developed one HTTP request,
Mhm.
and then we have connected through the conditions here. If
Okay.
the condition is the truth, then we will trigger one the actions here, send the manual reviews request email. In case of a condition is a false, in that cases, uh, process order without the reviews. Right.
Okay. Mhm.
Once the send manual reviews request email triggered, in that cases, meant a task is that they will reviews the task, and reviews have another three categories: approve, or default behaviors, or we can say enabled it now. Right. Approve means they will process the order, and then other is the send the escalation email in case of any kind of a or receive the escalations
Negative.
from the
Okay.
users. So you only have a once the escalations um, actions has been triggered, in that cases we have further connected quick response. In response, we will respond to the users uh, about the order process, and then if the condition is a false, in that cases we will send the an email process only. Right. So this is the main architecture of our order process management workflows. Automate the process here, and so and we will use the same concept whenever we need to design the any other workflows.
So in the very beginning, you are showing that web request, right? HTTP.
Yes, actually,
Mhm.
HTTP request on the top you have seen that we have designed it.
Okay, okay. So can we have multiple, HTTP mm, request in the single workflow? Uh,
Um,
yes, when HTTP request is, this is one first initially, we're communicating, right?
yeah.
So,
So initial
mhm,
point of
mhm,
a contact in our workflow should be one entry point, right? Suppose if you are using HTTP request is uh, received, right?
mhm.
And based on the use case, we can design the HTTP request, right? In our use cases, one single entry point from where user can interact.
Okay. Okay, so you mean to say no one workflow, it allows only one.
Correct.
That's a entry one. And so every time, we are going to hit that, when HTTP request only. See, if you have a conditions, right?
Hmm.
So it has to pass through from the beginning, or you can directly go, the condition you are making true, right?
Condition
Some
based on the
condition.
yes,
Uh-huh.
based on the conditions we are taking action.
Okay, so if I go through here, right, HTTP request with something is there, condition, if it is true, they send an email, no,
Correct.
manual review request and all. Okay,
Yes.
so whatever the based on the response, right, if they approve, it will come here. So if let's assume, the email is sent, if they approve, is it going to directly come to, approve level, or it is passing from when HTTP request, and then what is the stage, and then it is how it is recommunicating, revisiting the second time this
No.
work. No. Mhm.
No. So I think revisiting is not required. Suppose a
Mhm.
main objective is that process the order, right?
Mhm.
So, and this is logical thinking, we can say. Whenever anyone interacting with our the workflows and to check
Mhm.
the mm, order status and process the order, they need to first do the reviews. What is the current status of the order, right?
Mhm.
Suppose anyone reviewed the order and they found that order is correct, they will approve the order and then process the order. Similarly, we have implemented this workflows. If in case of
Okay.
need any escalation like delayed order, in that
Mhm.
cases we need to send the escalation email, right? Once the user send the this workflow send the escalations email, in that cases further what actions we can take, we can either respond quickly or we can say false escalation we receive.
Mm.
And in
Okay.
that cases if the order is nothing required escalation or approval, that's the default behavior.
Sure. Yes, I got it.
Yeah, this is the designer. We will for the rest of the upper use cases we can implement same base here. This is the use cases here. So now next question would come here, like what problems can I solve with the Azure Logic Apps? I think we have already answered. And then what are the benefit does Azure Logic App provide? I think we have already got the answers. Yes, right.
Yes.
So main objective of this slide is that only answer the two questions. Solve what kind of problem we can solve, and then what are the benefits of using a logic apps here, right? So this is a quick recap here. Why we need to use the logic apps? Basically, logic apps have a pre-built connectors that we can integrate in our workflows. And connectors have multiple tabs like services, systems, app data, this kind of a component we can use, right? Pre-built connectors available in the marketplace on the Azure portals. And suppose uh, mm, we I think we do not need to develop any connectors. Okay, okay. So in our application, we will not write any code to develop our connectors. We will use the managed connectors provided by the Azure marketplace. Okay,
Basically, custom connectors.
custom
Whenever it is
connectors.
really required, it will do. Okay, where are we going to use built-in, right,
Yes, based on our
to
use
serve
case,
the purpose.
multiple connectors are available. Whatever the use cases, for examples, Azure services like Blower Stories or bus services, we have already connected here. For the email services or Excel or SharePoint activities, we have already connected here. For database services like SQL or Oracle or MySQL, we have a connectors available here. For FTP or file sharing options, we have a connectors available here. Right. Okay. So basically, we have a categories of the connectors, like we have a managed connectors or built-in connectors. Connectors. Okay. So in case of our, suppose if we any requirement where we need to develop our custom connectors, In that case is actually either we can develop any script or any code basically a script we use the C multiple languages are available to write the code. So actually this is not a scope of here to write the connectors. Okay. So here the key component and we can say key terms used in our Azure Logic Apps.
Mhm.
So whenever we will develop the any logic apps, in that cases, we need to create the uh, um, two resource here now. First is the consumptions, right?
Mhm.
So basically, this is the logic app resources that support a single workflows, and we need to host this on a Azure Logic App hosted environment. And we have another is the standard logic app resources that support the multiple workflows.
Okay, so single and multiple workflows in a sense.
Okay. Uh, we will explain this on with the help of examples here now, right? Uh, Suppose we have a workflows you are designing uh, for our order processing first. Another workflows is uh, schedule the workflows to send the order status to the admin.
Mhm.
So in that cases, obviously we need to design the two or more than workflows here.
Okay. So it is a nested
Correct.
workflows or
Yes, yes.
okay.
It's kind of a nested in multiple workflows.
Okay. But in the consumption plan also it will support, right? Nested workflows. Is it not supporting?
In basically main consumption objective of consumption is that we need to develop the single workflows only.
Okay, so there is no parent-child
No,
concept
no,
or
no
flow in the
concept here.
consumption one.
Correct. No concept here in consumptions.
Okay, we have to use the standard one. Mhm.
Okay. Yes. And then I think if you have experience on the Azure cloud, then you must understand the single tenant Azure Logic app or ASC v3 Windows plan. So this is the ASC v3 is a kind of a has a pricing plan on Azure.
Mhm.
So once when we develop the standard logic app, in that cases we need to care about the pricing plan as well.
Can you explain me the single tenant and multi-tenant one? Single tenant means it is dedicated.
Correct.
Okay, multi-tenant means it is shared for let's say environment or maybe that
Mm.
region or the space is shared between other vendors also.
Shared environment.
Okay, that is for multi-tenant.
Yeah.
Okay.
So whenever we use any cloud, Azure
Mhm.
cloud, uh, based on the pricing plan, they will allocate the resources.
Okay.
Right.
So is it any security issue, if I go for multi-tenant, because at
No.
cost-wise it will be less, right?
No.
Compared to,
No.
okay, it's not cost-wise, nothing more, less.
Yes.
Same.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
So either we use a single dedicated server or we can use a shared environment. Mostly, basically, whenever we use the shared environment, uh, in that cases, I think security there will not be any security issues.
Mm.
Okay. So this is the approach we will use before starting any logic apps here. Right. Now, next is that you are talking about this one ASC, right?
Mhm.
So in case of a ASC, or even we can say this is the Azure function premium plan. So in that cases, we will use the our local development environment. Suppose if we need to write a code through the Visual Studio Code, in that cases we need to use this one ASC environment here. So we have discussed about the single tenant logic app. We have also option here multi tenant logic apps here, right? So in multi-tenant, we can use the shared infrastructure resources. Suppose if we need to use any resources on Azure, in that cases we can. If we need to share because of the low pricing plan, in that cases we need to develop the multiple tenant logic apps here, right? So now next is workflows. I think workflow you understand. This is the set of a logically separated task, and it is basically our business process or workload, right?
Mhm.
And further, we can say each workflows start with our trigger operations, and we can add the multiple actions based on the our business process. And the trigger is the first operation we develop or create on the workflows to meet the our requirement, right? And it is required to develop the triggers before running the any operations in the workflows.
Mhm.
Similarly, we can take the example. For example, if we need to uh, send the email, or if you want to trigger the uh, event whenever the user detecting or uploading the any file on the storage account,
Okay.
right?
So,
So
is
this
there any different types of any, triggers? Like, okay, so I can use, emailing, it's a general, or, waiting for, like uploading something you told, right? So for this, are we
this
differentiating the? Mm-hmm.
I'm giving you examples here.
Mm-hmm.
Based on our logic, we can define the triggers here,
Okay, got it.
and based on our business process.
Yeah.
Okay. So it is not a constant. We need to use the any email or file detection trigger here. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Further, suppose if we need a one trigger to automate the order review process instead of a manual check.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever we receive the any order, uh, this trigger will start. Similarly, we have a action component here. Inside the actions, I think we have already explained that uh, it follows the trigger in the workflows.
Okay. I have one question in the action that I saw on the compared to a previous image. Action means, true or false. Only these two, or can we add more options? Or can we
Multiple.
customize that?
We
Multiple
can
action.
customize. Yeah, we can
Uh,
customize.
like
Right.
a true or like, normally,
Any
technical
condition.
term. Uh,
Condition.
Reject, add, approve, so many things will be there, right? Delete, cancel. Like that,
Correct.
we can have our own customized actions. Okay.
We can do based on our business process. Whatever the business process we want to automate here.
Mhm. Okay.
Actually, I've
Yeah.
given here architecture to explain some already implemented the workflows. Right.
Mhm. But what is this difference between this trigger and action? Trigger, no, it will invoke. What about this action
Okay.
mode?
So action is a subsequent process, or we can say operation, that will happens after the triggers in the workflows.
Okay.
Suppose if we have it created the triggers to detect the any new files in a storage account.
Mm-hmm.
These are the triggers. And then what are the actions we are going to take if we detect the any files in the storage account? Suppose action could be uh, read the files content and then send to the users,
Okay.
right? So these are the actions we can take it now. Okay, we can very simple language we can understand trigger is a kind of event that will happens in our workflows, and action is a kind of a operations that will take we can take the option actions like whatever the and we can say this is a do and do not do, right? What kind of
Mm-hmm.
activities we can do once the trigger or event happens. This is the known as the action. So I think we already discussed about the built-in connectors on Azure Logic Apps. In that cases we will use the predefined components or managed components available in the Azure marketplaces here. uh, so So basically, we have two types of connectors here: Microsoft managed connectors or a built-in connectors. Right. So major difference between these two connectors is that built-in connectors uh, developed by the any third parties vendors other than the Microsoft. Right. There are lots of developers develop the connectors. It, but when we're talking about the managed connectors, in that case is uh, this connector is being verified by the Microsoft published connectors only,
Mm-hmm.
and it will be and this connector is managed and hosted and in a Azure pre-built service account. So, for examples, in our workflows, we have used the Office 365, Salesforce. So these are the managed by the Microsoft, right?
Yes, yes.
So now next is that we have some integration account we required here. So for example, if we are uh, uh, developing or any B2B application, in that case
Mm-hmm.
is we can create the workflows uh, to exchange the messages or protocols like we are using ASC2 or any other protocols. In that cases, we need some kind of account, B2B account. So this is the main component for the workflows. So basically, we have two categories here. How fast I can ramp up the user workflows here now. Right? So basically, we can either design the workflows using our the designers, or we can do the any edit, create very easily with this designer tools.
Mm-hmm.
Even though we can use our Visual Studio Code here as well. Now this is not required. Okay. So major here is the create and deploy the different to the different environment. When we are talking about the environment
Mm-hmm.
means the deployment strategy on Azure. And then whenever we're talking whenever we talk about the deployment strategies, in that case is again we need to care about the single tenant or multi-tenant or ASC environment. Right. So with the single tenant, we have already discussed about that. In that cases, workflows can um, easily access the resource hosted on the Azure virtual networks. Right. And even we have a single tenant or multi tenants, and then we need to select the deployment strategy. Like can we we usually deploy on the hybrid deployment, or we use a on premises deployment strategy or a public deployment strategies. Public means uh, it's a publicly accessible through the internet.
Overflow, large
Overflows,
flow
yes.
through your, okay.
Yes.
That's
And
no security issue, right? Or is
yes,
it
in that
something?
cases there would be
Mhm.
security issues, right? Because it
Mhm.
would be accessible by any other third parties
Yeah.
other than our applications, right? So if we need to develop the Azure Logic App, uh, very secure in private environment, in that cases we will use a private infrastructure. So in that cases, our application would be more secure because we are not allowing any other third parties network to access our application.
Mm.
Hybrid means we can say partially public and partially private. Some of the resources would be allowed to access, and some of the resources would not be allowed to access.
Oh,
Right? So before designing any workflows, we need to decide what kind of a infrastructure need. And for every deployment strategies there is a cost incur, and then we can decide accordingly as well. Pricing model also have a
so, it is, something like that you are telling, we will do the development in the using the designer and deployment, we need to do for public and how web application we are doing it.
correct.
And like
Yes.
that only we have to host it in some other place so that they can, access it.
Ah, yes.
Oh. So is there any repository kind of thing like, we especially, like .NET or some any other application that we have in Git repository or something. So here also we can use this workflow in the under repository or any manual versioning it will only create.
So in the designers, I think itself we have an option to save it now, and then
Okay.
GitHub repository is kind of a different approach. In suppose if we are writing any code or anything, in that cases
Mhm.
we will use a GitHub
Okay.
repository to
Okay.
store our workflows.
Okay. Designer will have its own version and it will store in Azure Blob Storage.
Azure, yes, yeah,
Okay.
it's been stored in the workflows.
Sure. Okay.
And the pricing I'm talking about here,
Mhm.
pricing model, uh, and this pricing models will varies based on our deployment strategies. Suppose if we are
Okay.
using a hosting option as a consumptions or a hosted
Mhm.
multi-tenant environment. In fact, the consumption easy to get the started. Right? This is a very basic workflows in
Mhm.
there
Mhm.
because consumptions. Because here we have a one single logic app resource.
Mhm.
Okay, I can have only one workflows here. One single logic app, one workflows here.
Okay.
So it is based on the pay per executions. Per executions, we need to pay for that one. Yes. So in that cases, we have some limitations. We have some default limitations. Uh,
Limitation.
suppose
Okay.
uh, now next is the hosted environment multi-tenant. We are using a multi-tenant. In that cases, pay for what we use here. Process resource sharing is the same. One logic app, one app resource, and one workflows here. But paying strategies will change here now. And suppose if you want to deploy our logic app in a fully managed environment, in that case is all logic app across the Microsoft intra-tenant account share the same processing, like compute, storage, networks.
Mhm.
That you must know about the intra-tenant. That intra-tenant is our service account,
Azure ready.
yeah, on Azure.
Tenant.
And then we are using any fully managed Azure Logic app. In that case, they will share all the our compute resources. Suppose we are using a storage, we are using a networks or any processing unit. In that case, it will be shared by across all the Logic app. Okay, suppose if we are using any data storage part, in that cases, we can use the same data storage for the multiple workflows.
Mhm.
Now, in case of a standard workflow service plan, in that cases, uh, if we are building the more connector hosted on the single tenant or run the higher throughput, low cost. So this is the main advantage of using this standard workflow plans.
100.
So in that cases again we can use a single logic app, but one difference is that in that cases we can have a multiple resources as well. That could be like stateful or stateless workflows. So single logic app have a multiple stateful or stateless workflows in case of a standard workflows.
Mhm.
And we can also limit the uses based on the our hosting plan here. And then limitations means we can change the limitations based on the requirement here. And then in case of a hosting environment, like either we decide single tenant or multi-tenant, there would not be any change. Either you can either single logic app with the multiple workflows. It's a very basic understanding we need to decide before starting any workflows. So in case of a suppose if you are using a standard service logic app, in that cases if you are using ASC v3, in that cases have some more additional benefit here. Benefit means we will develop the fully isolated logic app. That means in that cases we can create the more logic app in a single compared to the single tenant logic app here.
Mhm.
So resource sharing is the same. Even we can share the resource as well in this workflow as well. So only difference is that here create the more logic app in a compared to the single tenant environment.
Okay, so compared to this one to the previous one, right? So,
That the previous one, if you are
but this
using a
is bit
single tenant,
okay, so it's a more logic apps means, is there any limitation how many workflows we need to have it in the standard plan, like earlier plans?
yes, it will be based on our service plan.
Okay.
So in a consumption, there is the limitations, right?
Yeah.
But
Another one
if
we
you're
are
using a
so,
standard, yeah, if you're using
standard
any
one.
standard, in that
Mm.
cases, limitation is there, but we can change the limitation as well based on our need.
Oh, okay, okay. It can be customized in the sense.
Yes,
Yes, you
we can
told
customize
us.
it now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Okay, got it.
okay. So this is a very basic approach. We will start, and this is the another behavior standard is a hybrid. Hybrid means I think we have already discussed about. It's a kind of a some of the resources would be on our premises and some of the resources would be on our hosted Azure hosted environment. On premises means, suppose if we are using an enterprise application. In case of enterprise application, some of the enterprise have their own server, right? They have their own database, right? So in that cases, he decided, I want to use our own database, our own servers, but I want to deploy some of the resources on a Azure app. So, and this kind of a deployment strategy known as a hybrid standard. So main advantage of is that hybrid approach, we have a more controls on our own resources and infrastructures. That means we can schedule the maintenance activities, we can monitor database if we are using our own premises, because we are the owner of these resources. We can maintain or we can control this infrastructure.
Mm.
Okay. So this is the major advantage of using a hybrid approach here. That's it now. Uh, Deployment strategy.
Yes, I have another question. No? So suppose we are using CA/CD or something like that, right?
Hmm.
Here also that is possible to implement, continuous integration, continuous deployment, any mechanism is available in the portal for the workflow deployments. It won't
For the
worst.
workflow deployment,
Mm-hmm.
uh, if you are, I'm talking about deployment strategy here. If we are using any
Mm-hmm.
CI/CD pipelines like ADO, we are using, there is no such
Mm-hmm.
kind of facility. Right?
Okay. Okay.
Suppose if we are writing any code, in that cases we need to integrate the GitHub repository, right? And then we decide, choose the uh, ADO.
Mm.
But we can, if we are using any code repositories, then we can use the CI/CD pipelines for that one. Here deployment is the meaning is different here.
So, it may be simple, like the workflow, right? So moving, to development environment to hosting environment through portal and all. So that's it. They might not have
Mm.
this. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Um, but if we let me in our logic, if we are integrating with any data pipelines, in that cases we can align our workflow with the logic app with the data flows. Yes, yeah. Suppose we are using any data pipelines.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, in that cases we can align our logic app with the data pipelines. Uh, so have you used any data pipelines in the application?
No, that's only we use only, for applications.
Okay. So we'll just think logically. If you are using a single tenant logic app, this is the standard logic app. Uh, this will support the local deployment. Yes. In case of a single logic app, we can write the any workflow logic so that we can deploy using our Azure DevOps or any GitHub action. But in that cases, we need a infrastructure as a code. We need a code here as well
Mm-hmm.
for the integration.
Got it.
Oh, next is that this is not required. First class support for enterprise. We will discuss this one later. Because suppose if we need any third party integration, for that I need an integration account as well. Integration means if you are using any file server, they will In that cases, we need account for that one. Suppose if we are using any protocols like xtolb or ASC2, in that cases, we need account for that one for the integration purpose. We are skipping for this one now. Uh, so here the concept is that write the once and reuse multiple times. So in that cases, main concept is that we need to develop some template for our workflows, and then use the same template uh, to set up the our and automate the deployment process across the multiple environment and regions. And for example, we can take it now. Suppose we have a one workflows, and I want to deploy these workflows on a multiple environment. We have a test environment, we have a development environment, we have production, we have a pre-prod
Mhm.
environment. Right. So in that cases, workflows would be the same. So only will change the environment. In that cases, we will use the Azure Resource Manager template. So we have a one common template, and then we can deploy the multiple environment. So based on the template, we can also define the workflows. Now, next question would be that how logic app works here now. Suppose we have understood about the main component of our logic app. We have a
Mhm.
trigger, we have a action, we have a connectors, right? So we need to understand how this logic app works. So example, we will start with the example. Suppose in every workflows we need to start with a single triggers here now, and these triggers will fire based on the condition, right? So in case of a we are including any scheduling capabilities, in that cases we need a multiple triggers that will control our workflows. But in case of suppose we are writing any triggers, even though we have multiple triggers, after the trigger fired, so one or more action can happen that will control the our business process. Uh, so I think for examples in our order processing, uh, based on the manual reviews, if the reviews approved, in that cases action would be send the email notification to the user like your order has been processed. This is the action we can take. And we can apply the multiple condition here now. Suppose if you are checking the order is below a certain amount, condition is a false, so the workflow process the order. We can also check the condition for the certain amount.
Mhm.
So suppose if the we have a some order amount is less than 500, in that cases say workflows process your order. If the order condition is a true, like in that cases we can send the email notification to the users. In this example we can think we have already explained this logic here.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so basic concept here is that so whenever we fire the any trigger, so one and at most one action should be uh, uh, fired as well, right? So logic app guarantees that at least one message should be delivered. Any question till now? I think we have discussed about the
Um,
basic operations here now.
no, I think I can't.
I think no. Okay.
Whatever.
So we are good to go ahead. Okay. So pricing options we have already discussed about. Um, so main question is that to automate the process on a Azure app, we have a function, we have a Babes of, we have a Power Automate. But what is the actually difference here? And then what are the use cases of using a Logic app here now? Right on Azure, if you'll explore, we have multiple automation process. We have Azure Function app also available. Sometimes we are using Azure Function app.
I know Azure function Power Automate. Okay, what is the web job? That is also is present. Azure web job. I was not aware of this.
Okay, so
It's job. It means a scheduled job or
so basically when we're talking about Babe job,
mhm.
so if you understand with the help of a logic, then it will be very fine here.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Uh, but
Yes.
in very brief, I can say that um, Babe job. So when we are defining any Babe job, so in that case is and let me logically think you. I give you example. Um, so basically, Babe job differs based on their use cases and based on their audience. That means in a Babe job, whenever we need to write with the help of a code,
Mm-hmm.
in that cases we will use the Babe job.
Yeah.
But in case of a we need a quick deployment and very easily that in that cases we can use the our logic app, right? So in logic app we do not need to write the code.
Mm.
With the help of a designer we can design the workflows. So based on our use cases we can choose a web job or Azure logic app. So in case of a babe job, we have a multiple SDK available to write the code. Uh, but in case of our logic app, we can say we have a HTTP component, we have a SQL, SAP, this kind of a connectors uh, to trigger the our trigger. But in case of a web app, trigger can be designed based on our the SDK only. There is no role of a connectors or any protocols. And then development language, we can select multiple languages. We can select the Pythons, we can select the Node.js for the web app, writing the code. But in case of our web logic app, either we can design through the predefined template in the format of a JSON or any designer UIs. Okay, so this is a major difference, and based on our use cases, we can use that. And mostly Babe job, I think, um, developed by the developers only, right? But Logic app, anyone can use, any IT professional, business user, or anyone can use the Logic app because there is no requirement to write the code. We can just if I know the business process, we can easily design through the designers. Okay, so this is a major difference here. Okay, so in the next session, and the next we will do some demos here by creating a multi-tenant consumption logic app, and we will create the multi-tenant consumption logic app with the help of Visual Studio Code. If you want comfortable using Visual Studio, we will use that. Otherwise, we can skip this one, Visual Studio part.
Sure.
Then we will use the single tenant standard logic app.
Okay, we'll try to use this in the portal only, but something, we can Visual Studio because I need to
Yeah, Visual Studio, I
install.
think don't require. If you don't have a knowledge, we can skip this one because
Mhm.
here would be very complex here now. We need a JSON file, something like that. Developer
Because
to
I
do.
saw some of the component, 4 or 5
Mm,
component we have to install and configure.
yes.
Because anything we have to do, we have to do upfront. Probably,
Yeah.
you can
Yeah.
give me 1 or 2 days early. Yes,
Yes.
so that installation, all those things, I can take care. But
Correct.
otherwise, if readily available in the portal, we'll use for that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So getting us starting, I think to get us started, we can use the Azure portal only. Okay.
Okay.
So so tomorrow we will start with the multi-tenant and the single tenant logic app deployment.
Okay. I have one question. Since you mentioned this consumption plan and the standard one, right? So, when I said just curiosity, which plan I have to choose, right? So, as I said, some of the examples like multi-level approval is required and parent and child, one workflow to like a nested workflow communication, right? Which
Mhm.
plan is, suitable? Is it consumption plan or the, standard one? The reason, beyond I was asking, right? I understood like a consumption plan means when whatever we are using, multi-tenant and the multi-level workflows, nested workflows in the consumption plan, based on the usage, they're going to charge. Standard means it is fixed, something like that. I understood it in
Mhm.
that way. But
Mhm.
when you told, right, this
Mhm.
consumption will not support, multiple workflows. Okay, one workflow
Yes.
communication with another workflow.
Yes. Yeah.
So then, I need to go for standard
Mhm.
plan, right?
Mhm.
So can you confirm by tomorrow? Because just cross checking, it's already told that is there in the documentation also you told.
Mhm.
But if I go on
Uh,
multi-level and
yeah.
multi-workflow communication, like a
Huh.
workflow to be parent to child like that,
Mhm.
which plan will be the better so that I can install and I can uh, use for development.
Mhm. Okay. So in case of if you are using a multi-level,
Mm-hmm.
suppose we have multiple child workflows, right? So in that cases, if you want to provide your nesting workflows,
Mm-hmm.
I, I recommend to use a standard one.
Standard.
Yes,
Because this is a state full, right? So
correct.
one is approved, another one is rejected, another one is approved, something like that, is going to
Mm.
happen. Like, it will go to different department, HR, IT, all those things. Like you mentioned, above the order is above 500, right?
Mhm.
Less than it is going to, place the order. And if it is there, it will
Mm.
go for another approval. And
Mm.
then, based on the approval, it is going to place the order, something like that.
Uh,
So this is, another, okay. So I will
yeah.
use the
So suppose
standard
in
one.
case if you will use a consumption, then
Mhm.
they would be very complex to manage the workflow here now, and
Okay.
even though we can say very harder if we don't
Mhm.
have a much knowledge on that part.
Okay. Because we don't want to take, because hybrid also like, so many things there, but everything we have to maintain. Something, the portal can take care and we can think about the
Mm.
business.
Yes.
Okay. Then
So
it is
in
a
case of a
standard.
consumption, uh,
Mm-hmm.
and you know that to nest your parent-child relationship, we have a connector only, right? And
Mm-hmm.
they will support the HTTP action only, and or build and connectors. Then there will be very difficult to maintain the connector or any protocols to establish the connection between the child and
Mm-hmm.
parent.
Okay.
But
But
in case of a
cost.
standard, in case
Mm-hmm.
of a standard, there is a usable sub workflow available here now.
Okay. Okay.
We can
So.
say even there we can say native support
Mm-hmm.
available. to
in the
maintain the
standard.
relationship between the parent and child workflows.
Okay, in the standard. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I will also study today and will.
And
Okay, sir.
okay, fine. Okay, fine. So we are wrapping up now here. Okay.
Yes. Thank you for everything.